You cannot raise a family comfortably on $100,000 a year. Not even $200,000 a year. Bills, groceries, daycare, cars, house, mortgage, diapers, food, outings. Like, you really can't do it. I can barely raise myself on a six-figure income. How could you do a whole family? Please tell me in the comments. It don't make no sense to me. $100,000 a year? What?
So this is pretty controversial. A lot of people think that $100,000 is not the middle class anymore. And that is true for certain areas where the cost of living is so high, especially California, New York City, Chicago, and even Seattle have very high cost of living, where $100,000 is pretty much lower middle class. Now, if you're in a very low cost of living area, maybe the Midwest or Arizona, $100,000, you're going to be okay. It's not going to be rich by any means. $100,000 nowadays is a lot different than it was in the 1980s, which is something that we do have to keep in mind. Eventually, $100,000 is going to be lower class. That's just the way inflation works. And eventually 200,000 is going to be lower class. But over time, this is all normal. This is all what's to be expected with inflation. Cost of everything is going to go up. We've seen this happen time and time again.
The cost of living in this country is currently, it's not going to be, it is currently unsustainable. And there are people that they know this, but then they'll still look at somebody else that's struggling and then tell them they're not doing good enough. I want you to imagine somebody that makes $75,000 a year. That's a pretty high up wage in terms of like top earners in this country, $75,000 a year. And we're going to go through some things here. This is a person with no debt outside of a car. And please don't hit me with the, you can go buy a car for, shut up, you can't, shut up, stop saying ridiculous things. An entry-level decent car is $30,000. So this person who puts $200 a month into insurance and they pay 5% into their 401k, because shut up, people should be able to put money into their retirement. Because if you're not doing it now, you're never going to get to start doing it later. So after those two things come out of their paycheck and their taxes are paid, they bring home $53,850 a year from a $75,000 paycheck. Average rent in my state for a one-bedroom apartment, because an adult should be able to live by themselves, $1,700. That car payment at 6% for an entry-level, very reasonable sedan, nothing fancy, a car payment's $579 a month. Car insurance, $240 or so a month for a lot of vehicles in this day and age. You're a young person, you've got a nice job, but the insurance companies still want to screw you over. Food. You only cook at home. You never, ever go out. You only cook at home and you only eat decent quality food, because a human being should be allowed to eat decent quality food. You pay $879 a month for that. You spend $250 a month in gas. You wear and tear on your car $100 a month. $80 for your phone, $80 for your internet, $175 a month for your electricity, $70 for your water, $20 for your cash. You make 75 grand a year, and outside of a car payment, you have zero debt. Do you know how much money you have left over annually at a $75,000 wage? You do nothing. You don't own a Netflix. You don't go out on a date. You don't pay to go to a park. You don't go watch a movie. You do nothing. If you can't find it on the internet for free, you don't get to do it. If you can't cook it at home for your $800, you don't get to do it. You have $3,700 left over annually. That's like $320 a month. And there's going to be, well, that's $300. Shut up. Shut your stupid, contrarian, edgelord mouth. That's not a doctor bill, because God knows, just because we have insurance doesn't mean that we don't still pay far out the ass when we go to the doctors. People like to be entertained. They want to date. They want to... There's those of you out there that will tell somebody living like this on $75,000 a year before taxes that they are not doing what they're supposed to do, that they should get a second job, that they should get a side hustle, that they should get a better job. And the fact that you would look at somebody with no debt other than a car and say something like this to them means objectively you're a moron and you live in a fantasy world. This is unsustainable.
100K is now middle class. A lot of people consider $100,000 or a six-figure salary to be the hallmark of success, but that is really no longer the case. In fact, more than 50% of people who make over $100,000 per year are living paycheck to paycheck. What does that say about the cost of living in our society? The wealth gap in America is growing, and it's only going to continue to get worse. A $100,000 salary in 2024 is equivalent to a $55,000 salary in 2000. If you are not investing, inflation will slowly eat away at your savings until there is nothing left. Every year, the government prints more money and the value of the dollar decreases. This is not even mentioning the ridiculous increase in the price of real estate. Inflation has always been a problem, but it started getting really bad a couple years ago. The government started printing trillions upon trillions of dollars to hopefully stimulate the economy and circumnavigate the effects of a global pandemic. The interest rate dropped to basically zero, which meant that the government was handing out money for free. In 2021, inflation went up 7%. This means that if your employer did not raise your salary by at least that amount, you are now effectively making less than you did before. I'm genuinely worried by this, and I don't know why more people aren't talking about it.
You don't have to be an economist to know that the middle class salary is now $100,000. In 2019, $40,000 to $50,000 would buy you a middle class life. In 2024, it's $100,000. Even if you look at my life, my wife and I bought a $400,000 home, which is the average home in America. We drive 2 Volkswagens, not BMWs. The payment total is $850. We do spend $1,000 a month on groceries. We eat healthy, whole food, steak, grass-fed beef, eggs, salmon, meat, vegetables. We make our coffee at home. We don't do Starbucks. We have a 401k, health insurance, car insurance, gas, cell phone. My wife does get her hair and nails done once a month. I get my hair cut once a month. We go to date night every single Friday, but at like a local tavern or even Chili's for $100. And our bills, monthly bills, are $7,000 a month. And we have no credit cards, no student loans, and we don't have children. I can't imagine when people tell me that their daycare is $2,500 and their student loan is $500. I'm like, that would make our monthly bills $10,000. What? We are living a middle class life. In 2019, if you made $40,000, you would have what we have now, spending $100,000 for it. So the reason we keep bringing this up is that we don't want to see a repeat in the next 5 years of it going to $150,000 or $200,000 for the middle class. Like, we're watching the middle class just be pushed right out.
Can we just talk about how cooked we are as a society when it comes to money these days? In 1995, 30 years ago, $100,000 a year was considered upper middle class or maybe even pushing upper class. Now today, to have that same buying power, you would need to be making $210,000. So basically, $100,000 a year in 2025 is pretty much middle class. And what's even crazier about this is only 15% of Americans make over $100,000 a year. We are so cooked, guys. Now, I can't be the only one tweaking about this, right? Like, let me know what you guys think.
Do you think $100,000 a year is enough to be considered middle class, or do you think we need to move that number up to say like $150,000 to $200,000 a year to be considered middle class? I Googled this, and according to 2023 data, middle class in America averages around $55,000 to $90,000 a year, depending on where you live. So location is huge, I know that. To be considered upper class, which is the top 20% of earners in America, you need to make a minimum of $149,000 a year. And then for a family of 4 in California, Google claimed that middle class is just $69,000 a year. I find it really hard to believe that in a state such as California, where prices are higher, that $69,000 a year for a family of 4 would be enough for housing, for food, for medical bills, for insurance, for daycare. And that's just all necessities. That's not talking about things that you just want to get. So what are your thoughts on this? Is $100,000 really enough for a family of 4? And if so, why? Where do you live? And if it's not, what do you think the new middle class should be?
There are a lot of talk about how there is a new middle class that is not even 100,000 anymore for middle class because people can't afford. And I saw a video about this guy talking about 5 different sections of middle class, whether if you bought your house before COVID or after, or if you have kids or not. My point of view is middle class is middle class. Then your decisions determine if you're struggling to live in middle class or thriving living in middle class, because there is definitely both. And there's also high class people that are struggling with a really high income because they don't know how to spend their money. And it all boils down to that, your decisions. If your decision was to buy a house before COVID because you were able to, then you got lucky. If your decision was to buy a house after COVID and you couldn't afford it, again, that's on you. So if you're struggling in the middle class, mostly is because of people's decision, because middle class is already a privileged decision.
I saw this video that said 100K is the new middle class, and it just makes me reflect on the fact that I was able to choose accounting as my major in college and get to a place where I'm making above and beyond that amount of money. And I think I am trying to get more people on board on the accounting major because one, it's going to secure you a job after you graduate college. And then two, it's going to give you earning potential that for me, I never imagined making what I was making when I was growing up. So I think right now is a great time. A lot of the older generation is retiring and now a lot of people are coming into the accounting profession. And so it's not as saturated as some of the other places or some of the other majors. I think there's salaries are going to continue to increase. I had a video talking about how the AICPA is revisiting some of the requirements to be a CPA. And I think Big Four is coming around to be a little bit more like hybrid and treat their employees a little bit better. I even heard some firms coming together and offering some equity in the firm as a way to retain, employees. So it's a great time to be an accountant. The work is only going to get more interesting as AI and automation starts to take place. But I hope this motivates you to get that accounting degree. And if you want some advice or career tips, I do offer some coaching, link in the bio. Love y'all. Peace.
I never thought I'd see the day where $100,000 isn't enough in this economy. That's what the news reported, that the average lower class American, they're considered lower class now if you make $100,000 a year. So if you make $100,000 a year or less, you're considered lower class. And the average person making $100,000 does not qualify to buy a home. And they possibly qualify to get on government assistance because it's just not enough in this economy. When did the American dollar start to go down? Because it's happening. The value of the American dollar has gone down substantially. And that's why the goalpost is being pushed, because as we're meeting these goals that was set, the standards that were set by our parents to get a job, go to college, we're meeting these goals and it's still not enough. I legit make more now than I ever have, and I'm struggling. Literally. Some days I still have to get out there and DoorDash, Walmart deliver, just to make ends meet. And this is a two income household. So tell me when this happened. Like when at one point $100,000, like that was more than enough in a year to survive, to go on vacation, to live comfortably. That's what I want to know. When did this become the new norm, where $100,000 is considered low income, where it's considered not even middle class? I don't even think middle class even exists anymore.
60% of the American public is about to lose everything they have. People living paycheck to paycheck are about to go broke. The GDP numbers came in yesterday, and of course the economy receded, which I predicted 2 months ago, and people laughed. Mark my words, the second quarter is going to be far worse. Tariffs on Chinese products at 145% are about to kick in, which means everything you buy from China on Amazon or elsewhere is about to go through the roof. Grocery store shelves are starting to empty at Walmarts across the country, and of course grocery prices continue to soar. People who've been financing groceries on credit are starting to default on those payments. We are about to see an economic catastrophe. If you're in this 60% that has little or no money, please stop spending money. Protect your family. Trump does not care about you. Even if you voted for him, he's a billionaire. He won't suffer, but you and your family will. Please protect yourself. 60% of the American